Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Liv, and today we are going to be chatting all about my ultimate favorite fall time reads. Where I got the sweater. I got this sweater from Target about 4 years ago, and unfortunately I cannot send you the link. And I thought I would say that because I get compliments on this sweater every single year, and I am only hoping that Target will bring back this sweater at some point because it is the coziest sweater. It is my favorite sweater, so I had to bring out my favorite sweater and my favorite mug for this video because we're going to be talking about my favorite books. It is the rainiest, dreariest day, so if it is dark in this video, I apologize, but honestly it is the perfect reading mood. As I was prepping for this video, I compared my list from last year because I didn't want to have too many repeats, and I have read some new books since last year that have made this list, which makes me so incredibly happy. But I also have a couple different types of recommendation videos coming. This is just kind of like my broad favorites that I recommend to just about anyone, so you do have those to look forward to. But for now, these are just my ultimate fall favorites that I'm dying to share with you. And now that it is actually September and the weather has been a little bit cooler where I am, I feel like now is the time to share these books. So grab yourselves a cup of hot tea, cozy up, and let's talk about these books. Unfortunately, my tea has already cooled off before I even started this video, but that's okay. We are just gonna set that over here, and we are gonna talk about my favorite fall fantasy books, because what other genre would I start with? You guys know I'm a fantasy girly. I feel like a lot of these books are going to come as no surprise. I do have a couple underhyped books on this list for sure, but a lot of them I am mentioning because I just love them so incredibly much. The first one is the duology Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. If you have not hopped on this train yet, this is the perfect time of year to do so. Cold fog had settled over the depot like a burial shroud, and Iris Winnow thought the weather couldn't have been better. She could hardly see the train through the gloom, but she could taste it in the evening air, metal and smoke and burning coal. The wooden platform was slick beneath her shoes, gleaming with rain puddles and piles of decaying leaves. I don't think there's ever been a better first line of a book, especially for fall. I read this, I believe, in November or September of last year, and that was the perfect time to finally dive into this, and it will forever stick out in my memory as a fall book. If you are not a typical fantasy reader though, this book could easily be read by anyone. There are some fantasy elements, but it's mainly about Roman and Iris, who are both writers, and they end up writing notes together that magically appear to each other. There are just so many cool elements to this. This book is the perfect romantasy, and I feel like I am not selling it very good right now, but if you've read this and you know her writing and how detailed and luscious it is, but it's so easy to get sucked into, this is the perfect time of year to do it. I promise that if you pick this one up, it is going to be on your favorites of the year, and of course it's only a duology, so it's not going to take you very long to get through, but these two live rent-free in my head. There are so many parts of this book I wish I could explain and tell you about, but this is just a feeling. This book is a 5-star feeling, and I hope that if you pick it up, you feel the same way. Another dark, lush, gothic romantasy you know was gonna end up on this list is Belladonna, Foxglove, and Wisteria. I have yet to read Wisteria, but this is only a trilogy and you could potentially get through it during the fall season. If you pick one up now, you have September, October, and November, and you could just read one every single month. But this story just immediately makes me want to reread it. Our main character, Signa, essentially falls in love with Death himself, which sounds very dark, but you also have a mystery at a manor, and there's balls, so there's Regency vibes. There's even ghosts in this book, but Signa herself has to solve this mystery or this murder that is happening in her family, and she also has a cousin who is dying of some illness, and she is trying to save her. These two series are series I always like to recommend to people who aren't fantasy readers because the author just makes you get lost in their writing so quickly and so easily. If I'm going to recommend any books to you throughout this whole video and you were to pick one up, please try one of these series. They are so incredibly amazing. Next, we have a witchy book recommendation if that is your vibe. This book quickly went on my favorites list of the year. As soon as I read the first chapter, I was like, yeah, this is going to be amazing. And amazing it was, if you can tell from my tabs. This is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. I actually have an arc of Rebel Witch that I really need to get to. It is truly the perfect enemies to lovers scenario. We have a witch and a witch hunter. The writing was so captivating from the beginning, and it does remind me of Belladonna a little bit in the sense that there are balls and it does have kind of like Victorian or Regency vibes. So if that is your thing, definitely pick this up. I feel like I could say so much about this, but it tore my heart out in the best way possible in the cliffhanger. I really just want to talk to more people about this book, and obviously with the witchy vibes, there's some magic. There's also a really sweet friendship in this, and I think there are so many elements in this book that people are gonna love. So take it from me, this is on my top 5 favorites of the year, so you all better get on it. Next, we have an oldie but a goodie, House of Salt and Sorrows. This is actually the only book I've read by Erin A. Craig. I need to read House of Roots and Ruin. This one is also a duology. This is essentially a retelling or reimagining of the 12 Dancing Princesses, where we have 12 sisters. Unfortunately, one of the sisters has passed away, and supposedly there's a curse, and they are all terrified that they're going to be cursed with this illness as well. Our main character, Annalie, is being haunted by these ghostly visions, and the town believes this family is being haunted by gods of some sort, so this is just so creepy in every way. This book is definitely dark. There's a couple content warnings, and I do know that the second book goes even more the horror route, especially if it's still kind of warm where you are. I feel like the coastal vibes of the coastal setting is going to be perfect, especially for a rainy day like today. Another book that's an oldie but a goodie is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This book is so spooky. From what I remember, this story is kind of like a reimagining of The Secret Garden, but I do just want to read a portion of the inside to you because I feel like that just does this book justice. 16-year-old Olivia Pryor is missing 3 things: a mother, a father, and a voice. Her mother vanished all at once, her father by degrees, and her voice was the thing she never had to start with. Her only companions are the ghouls she sees in her mother's journal, which captured a mind in turmoil. This book is the UK edition, which is really creepy actually. There's skeleton hands on it, and I love this copy. But regardless of what edition you have, there are some great illustrations in this, and if you do listen to the audiobook, there's a lot of creepy sound effects and things that make this book so amazing. Speaking of underhyped books, one of the most underhyped books that I will always shout from the rooftops, it's not too fantasy-ish, but it's just enough where if you want to picture zombies, that's kind of what I pictured when I read The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd Jones. She has come out with 2 books since this book, but I love this one so much that I'm too scared to read her other books because I don't know if I'm gonna like it as much. This book is about our main character, Rin, whose family owns a graveyard, so she and her family are grave diggers because a lot of these bone houses or people don't stay dead, and so her job is to make sure that they stay buried. One day she runs into a boy in the forest near the graveyard named Ellis, who is a local map maker. This takes place in a very small village, but they end up making some type of deal with each other and they go on an adventure together. I loved this book for the lack of romance, but the abundance of friendship. I feel like we get a lot of these romantic-y books these days, but I just loved this book for the friendship. They helped each other, they fought for each other, and the end actually had me in tears. If a fantasy book can do that for me, it's an immediate 5 stars. I will talk about this book in every fall favorites video until the day I die. The next duology that I love so much, and I thought I owned the second book, but I guess I only listened to it because the audio is phenomenal. If you are able to get hold of the audio, that is 100% the way to go. That is called Anatomy, a Love Story, and Immortality is the second one. Dana Schwartz does not hold back in this series, and I feel like not enough people talk about it. A gothic tale full of mystery and romance. Hazel Sinnott is a lady who wants to be a surgeon more than she wants to marry. Jack Kerr is a resurrection man who's just trying to survive in a city where it's too easy to die. In this book, we obviously follow Hazel, who tries to get into medical school essentially. I believe this book takes place in 1817. Around this time period, women were not known for being doctors, much less surgeons, and so Hazel tries to weasel her way into this amazing doctor's class. She dresses up as a male and she goes to all these different lengths to prove herself that she can do this. And of course we have the love interest Jack, who's essentially a grave robber. So we have lots of spooky things happening. My last fantasy recommendation is one that I'm sad I haven't made the time to continue on with. I don't honestly know why, because this book blew me away at the time that I read it. That is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. This book is Hunger Games with vampires, but it's a lot darker. Just be aware there's a lot of darkness and blood and language, but that really didn't take me too much out of the story. We just have so many dark, creepy, like morally gray characters. Just thinking about the emotions and the turmoil I went while reading this book makes me immediately want to pick up the second one. I loved the love interest in this book. I feel like I'm just saying dark to describe this book, but it's vampires. I am now a huge fan of vampire books, and I have Carissa Broadbent to thank for that. Speaking of vampires and Twilight, we have a vampire werewolf romance, Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Listen, I know you've already heard some crazy things about this book, and I know a lot of people aren't a fan, but this book was my first Ali Hazelwood last year and I really enjoyed it. It was a solid 4-star for me, and a lot of other things besides the romance is wrapped into this book. Our main character, Misery Lark, is the daughter of a very powerful vampire, and in order to keep the peace between vampires and werewolves, they have to come to an agreement. The vampires in some way have to prove to the werewolves that they are not going to attack, and to do that they decide on a marriage of convenience between a werewolf and a vampire. But not only that, Misery is missing her best friend. I almost liked the whole mystery plot more than I did the romance. I feel like that was more of a driving force than the romance itself. But this book was Allie's first fantasy book, and if she keeps writing like this, I'm definitely going to continue to pick more books up by her. My top favorite romance book that I will mention every single year is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. Surprise, surprise, we're talking about this book again, but I haven't talked about it in a hot minute in any of my videos. This was Ashley Poston's first adult romance, I believe. This book had me in tears. Think about Schitt's Creek, but if that quirky family owned their own funeral business or funeral parlor, that is exactly this book. This book is about Florence Day, who is a ghostwriter for another author, and she has to return home when her father unfortunately passes away. But she might potentially fall in love with a ghost herself. This book is full of magic and emotion. She's written 2 other adult romance books since this one, and neither one holds a candle to this one for me personally. If you're gonna pick anything up, don't let this cute cover deceive you. This book is full of so many amazing things, and I will die on that hill. The next fun book that I can't wait to read more of from this author is Suburban Hell by Maureen Kilmer. I was trying to find another book that was kind of the quirky Grady Hendrix that was funny but not too scary or too demonic, and I ran across Suburban Hell and I have never looked back. This is about Amy Foster, who just redid a she shed in her backyard, so she has all of her mom friends over and they are celebrating and having fun, but in doing so they somehow release a demonic presence that they are all being haunted by, and that sounds really creepy, but trust me when I tell you, the suburban mom drama and the way they react to some of the situations they're in is so hilarious. You will absolutely fly through this book if you like Grady Hendrix, if you just want something fun, if you like suburban mom drama. This is definitely your cup of tea. Next, we're gonna get into a couple of my favorite spooky thrillers. The first one being a very underhyped author. This is The Lighthouse Witches by C.J. Cooke. I was absolutely blown away with how good this book is, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't even remember how I came across this author. 2 sisters go missing on a remote Scottish island. 20 years later, one is found, but she's still the same age as when she disappeared. If you are wanting coastal witchy vibes, this book is going to be perfect for you. This is about a single mother named Liv. She is an artist and she's commissioned to go to this lighthouse and draw some type of mural, but she ends up finding out something very interesting, and that is that the bottom of this lighthouse was a prison to witches at one point in time. You definitely kind of just have to enjoy the ride, enjoy the character characters. This book did remind me a little bit of Jennifer McMahon because we have the past timeline and the present, and I love how those two stories just came together so seamlessly. If this one doesn't sound interesting to you, I hope you at least explore this author a little bit because no one is talking about her. The next book I want to talk about is a series that I would really love to continue. It's very popular. You've probably seen it around quite a bit recently, but that is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is about teenagers who all have some sort of special power, so this has been compared to Criminal Minds. Our main character, Cassie, ends up going to this academy where they hound down serial killers using their powers. She also agrees to do it because her mother has been missing and she thinks there could be some sort of tie. Let's just say this book did not end at all how I thought it would. It was crazy. I immediately went out and bought the second book and I still don't know why I haven't read it. It's not necessarily spooky, but there are serial killers involved, so if that is something that you love or you love Criminal Minds and you haven't started this yet, I feel like this would definitely be your jam. Another book that is very popular this time of year, but I don't even care because it is my favorite, and that is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. If you are a Riley Sager fan or you haven't read this one yet, this one is my #1 favorite. Bells that ring themselves, record players that turn on and play music to empty rooms, ghosts that climb out of wardrobes. If you like books within books and you also love The Haunting of Hill House, this is going to be the perfect book for you. We have excerpts from the book itself that our main character's father wrote, and the way that Riley Sager just ties that story in was incredible. I love this book so much and I'm definitely due for a reread because it's been forever. I read this basically the day it came out and I feel like it doesn't need any more explanation. It's creepy, it's in the woods, there's ghosts, there's a haunted house, which is my favorite like spooky trope or spooky theme. So yeah, this was bound to be a 5 stars for me, and if you haven't read it yet, you definitely should. Another favorite is Hidden Pictures. I am so excited that we're getting another spooky book from this author. I don't think there's any way any of his other books are going to be able to top this one. This one is about a nanny who's taking care of a boy who is drawing some very disturbing secrets, and the family is acting very weird about them. Like, I'm talking about really weird, scary drawings here, and she is trying to tell people that something is wrong, and she's noticing some weird things with objects in the house. But personally, I just love creepy children, which sounds really weird, but that's a trope that I just think makes it even more spooky. And this book had the right amount of spooks, and you add in mixed media and I'm sold. I vividly remember sitting on my couch during 2020 or whenever this book came out and reading it in one sitting, basically less than 24 hours. I could not put it down. So this will always end up on a fall favorites list. Another author that I have really loved recently is Darcy Coates. Since I have read Ashburn House, I have bought 3 or 4 of her other books and plan to read them sometime soon. But Ashburn House was cozy but so fun, but I especially loved the mystery that our main character is trying to solve. Our main character Adrian inherits this house, but there is talk in the town that the house is haunted. There are weird things happening with people in the picture frames in the house, and she's hearing weird noises, and it's basically your typical haunted house story, but it wasn't too spooky for me. There were definitely a lot of cozy moments because she's by herself with her cat, and I just loved that. I thought the main character was so relatable, but if you were looking for something that's a classic haunted house story, I would definitely check into Darcy Coates. And last but definitely not least, because I think this is the best or my favorite out of all of these thrillers, is Malice House by Megan Shepherd. She weaves a complex tale of dark magic and family secrets that emerge when a woman attempts to sell the estate of her father, an acclaimed horror novelist. This is perfect for fans of Leigh Bardugo and The Babadook. Our main character, Haven, is an artist, and she is going to her dead father's estate to try to get things settled, but she ends up finding some of his horror short stories and decides that she wants to illustrate them. But some weird, interesting things start happening in the house, and I know this book is not going to be for everyone. It's definitely genre bending to where you either either love it or you hate it, but for me, I loved this book. The audio was also super creepy with the way it was told. There's also a sequel of this that came out last year or 2 years ago that I still need to read, but I would love to reread this one first. I believe this takes place on the coast, which is an isolated setting, and it immediately just makes it that much creepier. Now I have 3 graphic novels that I quickly want to recommend because I know graphic novels aren't for everyone, but these are still some of my favorite. The first one I really love is Hooky. I think there was even 5 volumes out at this point. This is about 2 twin witches who go on some type of adventure, and that's all I'm gonna say. Just know that the artwork is super cute. There's dragons, and I love the art style and just all the different things that these siblings get up to. This was adorable, and I need to still get a hold of the second volume. This next one is by Vera Brosgol called Anya's Ghost, and she easily is one of my favorite graphic novel artists. Of all the things Anya expected to find at the bottom of an old well, a new friend wasn't one of them, especially not a new friend who's been dead for a century. Falling down a well is bad enough, but Anya's normal life might actually be worse. She's embarrassed by her family, self-conscious about her body, and she's pretty much given up on fitting in at school. A new friend, even a dead one, is just what she needs. This book definitely explores some great topics, especially for teenagers, but also has some really fun spooky parts to it, and I really liked the ghost's humor in this story. So we just get all sorts of elements in this book. There's spooky, but there's relatable things. It's hard-hitting. It was emotional. So this isn't necessarily your cutesy ghost story, but there is still some really fun moments. And last but not least, I have Over My Dead Body, but it is basically Harry Potter, but make it spooky, because we have all these students that are at this academy to learn how to be witches, but our main character's best friend ends up going missing. So there's also this whole unraveling mystery, but the artwork is just insane. It's actually pretty scary, but it's very reminiscent of Hogwarts. Even all of the students have little familiars. It's very autumnal. You have the academy or the manor, and it's so cool. I just love this book. I hope this author comes out with another spooky graphic novel sometime soon because I would love to read more by her. Well, that is the end of my favorite fall books. I would love it if you guys would recommend me a book in the comments below. I'm constantly adding to my fall TBR in hopes of finding a new favorite author or a new favorite story, and I always rely on you guys big time for that, so definitely comment below. If you watched the whole video, you can also leave me a fall emoji. I hope you found some new recommendations. Thank you so much for watching this video and supporting my channel. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next fall video.